Hello, hello, hello. Jordan Sheridan live. Status Coup, Monday, October the 17th, the year 2022. Woo! I need a haircut. It's getting unruly. I am a little disheveled. I do need a haircut. I do have the sniffles. I don't know if it's allergies or a cold. Not COVID, I don't think. So bear with me. If it sounds like did cocaine right before the show, I did not. Just have the sniffles. Hope everybody's having a good day. Hope everybody had a nice weekend. Smash that like button. Share this live stream with all so we can get it out to more people. The more people that press like, the more people that will see this very live stream. Quite a show. I'll wait for more people to trickle in before I go on. But boy, is there a lot going on? Today is the last day of the Amazon union election in Albany. So we'll give you an update on that. Apparently now it's just kind of commonplace for Republicans to just directly threaten to kill people. So we'll get to that. We also have Fox News had somewhat of an epiphany on how politics works and how if you actually cater to people, they might vote for you. It was quite the clip from Fox News. Former Michigan Governor Rick Snyder says Flint should thank him. Nope. I mean, honestly, most of these headlines you would think it's the Onion, but this is really happening. So quite a lot to get to. We're also going to take your calls on call-in. So we'll do that in a little bit through the call-in app. So if you haven't downloaded call-in yet, download it. CALLIN. Download the call-in app and search for Status Coup. And we will be taking your calls, which we could then pump through right onto the YouTube show. So we'll do that in a little bit, kind of open mic. You can call in about whatever you want. So excited for that. And keep those likes coming. Smash the like button. Super chats, very much appreciated. I'm not going to lie. It's been tough sledding recently. We need to get some much needed cash. I'm actually going to be, October 17th. So in about a month, I will be departing, not permanently, but for a few months, I will be departing. Definitely at least a month and a half. I'll be taking off as I focus on my book. Writing my book, trying to get a publisher. Right now, I'm about 4 chapters in, but it's been incredibly slow writing because it's very difficult to write and do my day job. So I'll be shifting to really focusing on writing the book in about a month. Also, potentially some other projects I'll be doing during that time. But during that time, we will be still going strong. You'll have Tina Desiree Berg hosting, Ron Placone hosting, Kim Brown hosting. So we will be definitely straight while I'm gone. And if something monumental happens, obviously I'll go live. All right. Smash that like button, share this live stream. I hate starting with Trump, but I don't really know what else. I mean, I have to start with this because it's so insane. As a reminder, about a month ago, well, not a month ago, maybe last week, because with Trump, who knows? Maybe last week it was. Trump basically threatened Mitch McConnell, if you remember that. For those that don't remember that, we'll show it. This was Trump's truth, whatever he calls it, not quite a tweet, but Trump's post on Truth Social about McConnell and his wife. If you could put that up, Colin, it's at the top of the live stream doc. Is McConnell approving all these trillions of dollars worth of Democrat-sponsored bills without even the slightest bit of negotiation because he hates Donald J. Trump and he knows I am strongly opposed to them? Or is he doing it because he believes in the fake and highly destructive Green New Deal and is willing to take the country down with him? In any event, either reason is unacceptable. He has a death wish, all caps. Must immediately seek help and advice from his China-loving wife, Coco Chow. So obviously that was bigoted, basically giving a wink and a nod, maybe even more than a wink and a nod, to his supporters to, I guess, take action against Mitch McConnell. Mitch McConnell is obviously a corrupt motherfucker, but he's also clearly a spineless shit because he wouldn't even push back on this. So That's how I feel about you, honey. Poor wife, Elaine Chao. But so that was, then it clearly was, to me, a straight up, you have a death wish, provocative incitement to violence. But yesterday, Trump just felt like, I guess, threatening Jews. So this was quite something. If you saw this post, Trump put on Truth Social, if you have it, Colin. No president has done more for Israel than I have. Somewhat surprisingly, however, our wonderful evangelicals are far more appreciative of this than the people of the Jewish faith, especially those living in the U.S. Those living in Israel, though, are a different story. Highest approval rating in the world, could easily be prime minister. Jews have got to get their act together and appreciate what they have in Israel before it is too late. I'm not going to pretend to be, a big Jew. I can't really remember the last time I've gone to temple, unless I was guilted into it. Not the most religious person, although I respect people who are. I am Jewish, but so I won't really shriek offense to this. But Trump is very clearly putting these sentences, like with McConnell, death wish, all caps, in a way that he could then pretend, oh, well, I meant he's got a political death wish. And in this case, when he puts before it's too late, it's clearly an incitement to violence, but he could then just reframe it as, before it's too late politically, or before it's bad politically in Israel. Jewish people did not like this. I didn't like it. I'm a Jewish person. I find it quite offensive. But let's show. I mean, this is just one tweet. Steve Hofstetter, dear Donald Trump, I could explain that American Jews are not Israeli, that your conflation is harmful, that your rhetoric led to a rise in anti-Semitism, but you know that and don't care. So instead, I'll just say this: go fuck yourself. Sincerely, an American Jew. He went on to say, if you're smart enough to know the difference between a country and a religion, join me for a show. Let's go. Joyce Aileen. Still waiting on any Republican to condemn Trump's comments. There was a time when implicit threats made against Jews would have been unacceptable. Apparently no longer, despite the fact that anti-Semitic violence is at an all-time high in the U.S. And a lot of Trump supporters are anti-Semitic. And I can tell you, the white supremacist message boards today or yesterday when this happened were ablaze, loving this Trump truth or whatever his posts are. Let's play a clip from Mehdi Hassan's show. He had Ari Robin Haft, who was, I think, Bernie Sanders' deputy campaign manager. He's Jewish. His response.
As a Jewish American, what is your reaction waking up on a Sunday morning and seeing the former president of the United States warning that you and your community better watch out?
What's amazing, and you pointed this out, is how casual this anti-Semitism has become, how the dual loyalty trope, which is embedded in his, I don't even know what to call it, it's not a tweet, whatever his social network thing is called. It's the dual loyalty narrative has been long an anti-Semitic trope, and he throws it out there just casually and then throws out that threat as if you don't do this thing that has been long classified as anti-Semitic, there will be consequences. The truth is, Jewish Americans have a wide variety of opinions on Israel. Jewish Americans tend to lean liberal, if not left. Jewish Americans do tend to vote for Democrats. Trump sees Jewish Americans obviously as the enemy through his statements. And the fact is, we've become casual, we've become numb. And you're right, Mehdi, that numbness has led to acts of violence in our midst, and we have to stop being numb about it.
It's quite interesting. And, got to say, my wife in the chat makes a good point. You don't really hear these dual loyalty tropes with Dr. Oz, who I believe has citizenship in Turkey. And you shouldn't, by the way. But, boy, is this wildly interesting. And by the way, Trump is popular among Orthodox, very religious Jews in Israel. He's not popular like across the board in Israel. younger people in Israel don't love Donald Trump. Religious people love Donald Trump mostly because, he moved the embassy from Jerusalem to Tel Aviv. He continued, American aid to Israel. He was, clearly didn't give a damn about Palestinians. But what's incredible about this is, you don't really expect much from the Republican Party anymore. They kind of sort of went after Trump for a few days after the January 6th insurrection, but then, quietly went back to being spineless little shits after Charlottesville, and Trump kind of equivocating, basically saying, there were good people on both sides about the white supremacists. Republicans overall didn't do much, but the Republican Party, if there was one thing with the Republican Party and the Democratic Party, but if there's one thing with the Republican Party over the years, was a fierce loyalty to Israel and Jewish people. Frankly, if we're just being honest, Sheldon Adelson is one of the biggest. Well, he's dead now, but Sheldon Adelson was always one of the biggest Republican donors. So they, were super team Israel, who could be more pro-Israel. I haven't seen anybody in the Republican Party call out Trump. None of the mainstream is a awkward word with this, but none of the top Republicans, Kevin McCarthy, Mitch McConnell, certainly not Marjorie Taylor Greene. Who else? None of the candidates running. Oz, Herschel Walker, JD Vance. I haven't seen any of it. I don't really watch Fox News, but I don't think Fox News is calling Trump out. And by the way, Trump knows that there has been a rise in anti-Semitism in this country, frankly, correlating, not even his daughter, who, by the way, his daughter converted to Judaism for that shit, Jared Kushner. It's incredible. And by the way, there have been attacks on synagogues. Remember the synagogue in Pittsburgh a few years ago? I was very much criticized by a lot of viewers. I still am. When I said, hey, you vote for whoever you want. But I said, personally, I'm drinking whiskey, really biting my tongue, and voting for Biden. Not because I like Biden, but I felt, having covered Trump in 2016 and Trump in 2020, and being out there at his rallies, 2016 compared to 2020, it was night and day different. Not that 2016 was, a walk in the park. There was a lot of hate at these rallies. But what I was seeing in the final weeks and months of the 2020 campaign at these rallies, to me, and of course I wasn't alive, but to me, knowing history, really had tinges of like the 1930s, like the hate and the brainwashing at these rallies. And the way Trump was talking, it was like he really wanted to be a dictator. Rallies I covered, he was joking about serving more than 2 terms. They had OANN on the big mega screen behind them. Like, the channel that's like 10 times more batshit than Fox News, that I think has been removed from most cable carriers, went full stop the steal. Like, to me, I felt I knew what I was getting with Biden. I had no illusions that Biden was going to do anything. And that Biden was going to do anything other than, maintain the status quo, sprinkle a little crumbs, which is what he's been doing. But I didn't know what we were going to get with Trump if he served another term. I didn't know if it was going to be more than 1 term. We see the Supreme Court. We see norms have been totally tossed out. So for the people that say, oh, you voted for this. Well, in terms of Biden, well, you can vote for someone and still, as a journalist, cover them critically. You can vote for someone and still criticize them and be critical. I didn't vote for Biden. I felt I really see this heading in a truly authoritarian fascist direction if Trump got in there. And we are literally seeing the mainstreaming of political violence. And I can tell you, I know people who do this for a living. The chatter and the threats online, what Trump is doing and what I'm about to show you Don Jr. is doing is literally feeding the extremists. He's giving them fuel. And he is basically, I would say, if before it was kind of a wink and a nod, now it's kind of a, fist pump. Yeah. We might need you to do something. And by the way, if he's prosecuted, which I think he is going to be prosecuted, particularly for the classified documents, this is a prelude to direct call for violence, whether it's from Trump or his allies. Which brings me to, this was posted about an hour or two ago. Donnie Jr. with an assault weapon with Hillary, but Colin, if you could zoom in to show the Hillary part, with an assault weapon and Hillary Clinton like behind bars under on the magazine. I don't really think I need to put a disclaimer what I think of Hillary Clinton. People know I'm not a fan. But literally, one of the first sons who could be, could be first son again, if you could put that back up, Colin. One of the first sons who could again be in the White House if his father becomes president again. What do you think that does? What do you think holding up an assault weapon with Hillary Clinton behind bars in the magazine does? This isn't about politics, whether you like Hillary Clinton or you don't. I think Hillary Clinton should be behind bars for several things, but I don't think anyone should be violent towards Hillary Clinton. I don't think violence is the answer for anything. Political violence has not gotten progressive change throughout history. But this is what they're doing. And there is no denouncement, maybe here and there, a little denouncement from Republicans who are retiring because I guess they somewhat have a conscience. I don't want to let Democrats off the hook. Democrats are pathetic. Democrats, in my view, are corrupt, but they're not doing this. You don't see, Nancy Pelosi holding an Uzi with Marjorie Taylor Greene's face. I'm telling you. Tina Desiree Berg, who does a great job for us, she co-hosts with Ron Placone on Thursdays. She also has her own show, Right Wing Insanity Report. She might tweak and change the name. She covers this every week for us. Every week for us. If you haven't seen it, you got to watch Tina's show on Thursdays. It's right after our main show at 5 o'clock Eastern. Right Wing Insanity Report. The other day, she just interviewed a former neo-Nazi who saw the light. Today, she interviewed, we're going to air it later in the week, a journalist who all he does is cover extremism. She's been all over this. Yes, there were reports that Lauren Boebert shot her neighbor's dog the other night and didn't tell the neighbor as the neighbor was calling out for the dog's name. These are dangerous times. And when you hear, and keep smashing that like button, by the way, thumbs up right under the video. When you hear so-called leftists either ignore this or minimize this, I could tell you as someone who's been at between 2016 and 2020, at least 60 to 70 events, Trump rallies, MAGA rallies, Trump flag drops. They were violent. There were violent pockets at these rallies already. You had militiamen at these rallies. You had QAnon people. And you could tell, they would scream at reporters. They would get up in reporters' faces. They would get up in the faces of counter-protesters. Many of them would come with guns in the parking lot. So this already kind of was festering, but now you have, between Trump's direct threats, his son, Marjorie Taylor Greene, Alex Jones obviously is still prominent and has called for revolution. This is how fascism is born. And I was very careful when Trump was president. I didn't compare him to Hitler. I don't use the term fascism loosely. There are different types of fascism, by the way. There is something called corporate fascism, which I saw on the ground when I covered Standing Rock. That was fascism too. When you have the police, who are a public entity, and we pay for, literally working at the behest of a fossil fuel company to brutalize protesters, that's fascism too. Fascism is not only, sending people to their deaths at camps. or gassing people. There's plenty of fascism around the world that isn't, what horrendously happened in Germany years ago, or in Italy, or in other countries. But I think this is dangerous. I think it's really pathetic. And I would question big YouTubers on the left why they're not denouncing this stuff. Because the answer, well, I'm not breaking news here. Or the answer is the response of, oh, well, why would I cover that? Everyone else is. Because you should denounce it so your audience knows that this is not normal. You should denounce it so everybody knows that we need to fight on the battlefield of ideas, not on a literal battlefield. I also want to show, because I believe the election denialism is linked to this. I covered this earlier in a video that's up on the channel. This might be the next governor of Arizona. Let's take a look at Kari Lake.
My question is, will you accept the results of your election in November?
I'm going to win the election, and I will accept that result.
If you lose, will you accept that?
I'm going to win the election, and I will accept that result.
Yeah. So that's Kari Lake. At this point, she might be, it looks like she's going to be governor of Arizona. The Democratic candidate she's running against is pretty bad. She refuses to debate Lake. Lake is a former TV news anchor. She's pretty good on TV. She gives a good speech. She's got a little Sarah Palin in her. By the way, Colin, I just sent you, if you get it in time, Kari Lake had endorsed an anti-Semitic Oklahoma Republican who said the Jews are evil, and then kind of sort of denounced it, but not really, when she was called on it. So again, these are mainstream. I don't want to say mainstream, but these are like your leading Republicans who are jumping on to anti-Semitism, political violence, election denialism. And the mainstream media has essentially, they kind of challenge it, but not really. To me, if I was interviewing Kari Lake, these would be the only things I'd be asking her about. And I would be challenging her. And if she refused to answer, I would cut it off and end the interview. Yeah, right there, Colin, if you could show that. So Kari Lake endorsed an anti-Semitic Oklahoma Republican who says the Jews are evil. The GOP gubernatorial nominee who declared last month that she denounces bigotry, especially anti-Semitism, didn't answer questions on this. Less than a month ago, Kari Lake rejected an endorsement from a prominent anti-Semite, saying that she absolutely denounces bigotry in all its forms, especially anti-Semitism. This week, the Republican nominee for Arizona governor gave her full-throated endorsement to an Oklahoma legislative candidate who said the Jews are evidence that evil exists. Lake said he's a fighter and a patriot who is attacked by the Soros media, another anti-Semitic reference to wealthy businessman and philanthropist George Soros, because he is over the target. Trust me, it's not like these people don't know who they're endorsing or what they espouse. They know exactly who these people are. This is the point of endorsing them. They're trying to incite and go for, bottom of the barrel white supremacist vote. I don't know how else you call it. But let's also be clear. I'm not making a false equivalency because obviously the Democrats are not doing this. But when you do not offer an alternative, when your main achievements are essentially breadcrumbs, seriously, Biden came in, it's very similar to Obama with economic freefall. The economy was really, really in shambles in 2020, beginning of 2021. People were losing their jobs at still a very rapid pace. Vaccines were just beginning to roll out. And Biden quickly abandoned the $15 minimum wage, which could really be helping people right now with inflation, citing a nonsense parliamentarian that he could have just disregarded and pushed the $15 minimum wage through the first reconciliation package, which was the COVID relief package in the beginning of 2021. Could have pushed the $15 minimum wage through. Could have pushed for a public option, which he ran on. You never hear anything about it. Could have done $2,000 checks for a significant amount of time until somewhat of an all clear sign came with the pandemic, which, by the way, COVID is still running rampant, but the media and politicians pretend it's not. He could have done a lot of things. And I'm not saying that would have changed people's minds or gravitating to this political violence, to this violent conspiracy movement. I'm not saying that it would totally eradicate it. There are just some people that are hateful. There are some people who are white supremacists. There are some people who are conspiracy theorists and eat this shit up, even if economically they're, desperate or destitute. With that said, if you look throughout history, a lot of times fascism's breeding ground is economically desperate people. Situations that are really, really economically bad. So, all right. Moving on, and smash that like button. Makes a big difference. Press that like button. Super chats are welcome. We're going to take your calls in a few minutes. We got some breaking news here. Let me see if you have that tweet, Colin. Stephen Donziger, who's conservative. Wait, let me read this first. All right, so I'm just looking at this for the first time. If you could put it up. So Stephen Donziger tweeted, the U.S. Supreme Court, whose conservative justices I've criticized, just ordered the Department of Justice to explain why they allowed a private oil company to prosecute and detain me. The DOJ, President Biden, and AG Garland have some serious explaining to do. And this image, Supreme Court of the United States, Stephen Donziger, the petitioner. Wow, this is a big deal. Docketed September 22nd, October 17th, response requested. So my reading of this, I might not have it down exactly right, is the Supreme Court wants a response from the Justice Department probably the Justice Department, why this prosecution went forward against Stephen Donziger. So that is great news. I will try to get in touch with him and see if he'd want to do an interview. If you don't remember, Status Coup, as far as I know, was the only independent outlet that covered protests on behalf of Stephen Donziger over and over and over again. Surprised the Supreme Court is actually taking this up, but I'll take it. What will come of it, I don't know. While we're at it, why don't they ask why the Biden administration is prosecuting Julian Assange? Because there's no legal basis for that either. I don't think the Supreme Court is going to do that, but just have to point that out. I think there's a quicker chance, Kelly Elaine, of me growing a six-pack by the end of the year than the Supreme Court ordering Chevron to pay a dime. But, I'll take good news that the Supreme Court is ordering the Department of Justice to explain their rationale why this prosecution was allowed to go forward. Because remember, in the case of Stephen Donziger, a U.S. prosecutor refused to hear the case. Originally refused to hear the case, and then a judge in New York shopped it out to a private prosecutor who happens to have Chevron ties to prosecute Stephen Donziger on behalf of the United States, which was absolutely bizarre. All right, moving on from political violence, Fox News seemed to have an epiphany. Live on air while denouncing Bernie Sanders as per usual. Let's play the first clip. This is technically Fox Business, but they reacted to Bernie Sanders calling for Democrats to actually run on economics and propose actually progressive economic policy rather than just focusing on abortion, which polls show, a new New York Times poll. Actually, let's show that, Colin. This is the New York Times article that came out today with new polls. Let's get to where is it in the polls? Ah, damn it. Did I send you the wrong thing? I think I sent you the wrong thing. Yeah. Well, we could just show this anyway, but you have that article, Colin? The New York Times article? Yeah, so Republicans gain edge as voters worry about the economy, poll shows. Both Democrats and Republicans have largely oh, here we go. Let me read the top. Republicans enter the final weeks of the contest for control of Congress with a narrow but distinct advantage as the economy and inflation have surged as the dominant concerns, giving the parties momentum to take back power from the Democrats in next month's midterm elections. The poll shows that 49% of likely voters said they plan to vote for a Republican to represent them in Congress on November 8th, compared with 45% who plan to vote for a Democrat. With inflation unrelenting and the stock market steadily on the decline, the share of likely voters who said economic concerns were the most important issue facing America has leaped since July to 44% from 36%, far higher than any other issues. So Democrats, when things were so raw after the Supreme Court had overturned Roe v. Wade and we saw protests around the country, thought they could ride that all the way to the midterms. And obviously, I don't want to minimize it. I think it is one of the top issues, the overturning of Roe v. Wade. However, I don't think Democrats have actually given you any specifics on if you put us back in control of the Senate, if you let us keep the House, here's what we're going to do. Here's how we're going to guarantee you that we codify Roe v. Wade nationally. I haven't seen any specifics from them how they're going to do that, because just getting 2 more senators is not an automatic for that. But what's amazing about this, why do you think Republicans, who literally, the Washington Post just reported, Republicans' plan, if they retake the House, is to immediately expand the Trump tax cuts and make it permanent. The Trump tax cuts in 2017 that gave 84% of the tax cuts to wealthy people. That's their plan to tame inflation. The same old shit since the 1980s, rinse and repeat and recycle tax cuts for the rich. Well, as I said in an earlier video, what if Biden had threatened to pull federal subsidies to the oil companies? We give you $15 billion a year the federal government gives to the fossil fuckers. If you don't lower gas prices by $1 by the end of the week, you should have said this months ago, by the way, we're pulling those subsidies. That would be a pretty popular thing. That would be a pretty popular thing among independent voters that right now are breaking to Republicans. If the president showed some leadership and fought the oil companies, he didn't do that. Why? Because the Wall Street owns the Democratic Party and owns Biden. We live in the United Corporations of America, and Wall Street is heavily invested in fossil fuels. So they don't want subsidies to the fossil industry taken away. That's why. Biden could have done a lot of things like that. Biden could have taken action against the food companies who are grotesquely price gouging. He has not. So let's play the Fox News clip where it seems they have an epiphany on how politics works.
For the midterms, Senator Bernie Sanders telling Democrats they have to try and win over working-class Republicans. Roll tape.
Look, I think there are some extreme right-wing voters. No, and I don't think you're going to ever get them. But I also think there are millions of people in this country, working-class people, who look at Washington and they say, you know what, I'm falling further and further behind. Who is listening to me? And I think what we need is a Democratic Party that has the guts to stand up. And I think if we do that, some of those people, I'm not saying all, will say, you know what, I'm going to stand with the Democratic Party.
Okay, Republican Congressman Dan Crenshaw with us right now. Congressman, didn't you just put out a new campaign ad stressing the need for a new generation in politics? Were you taking aim at the 82-year-old socialist Bernie Sanders?
No, but of course it could apply rather well. You know, I was taking aim at South Texas. It's turning red. I mean, working class Americans in South Texas they want security, they want prosperity, okay? And you're not going to get that with an open border that's that's flooding across their counties and also taking up their resources. This is something the Democrats just can't seem to understand. So their main philosophy is, look, we're going to buy your vote. What do you need? We will get it for you. Somebody else has victimized you, and we're going to pay you off. That's what Democrats say. They'll pay off your student loans. They'll give you free money, free checks. They've almost doubled food stamp spending just in the last couple of years as well. Medicaid rolls are through the roof as well. So they just want to pay you off. They think that's taking care of you. But that's not the American way. The American way is the government is there to create a structure in which you can thrive and live free. It really is that simple, and I think people are realizing that's what Republicans stand for. So if you're going to reduce inflation, you got to hit the supply side of things. You got to make it easier to build things. You got to make it easier to produce things, not harder. Don't just flood the market with more and more money. That in itself is inflationary. So these guys are just totally out of touch. They don't understand basic economics, and they don't understand what the American spirit really is, which is we want to be free to work hard and prosper for ourselves and for our families.
Let's play the follow-up to that.
Issue. But at a time when working families are struggling and the people on top are doing phenomenally well, I don't think you go after working people.
Okay, so the sentiment of that might be right. Inflation is the real issue, right? And higher rates needed to bring it down only pinch Americans more. I think most people get that. But he is Bernie Sanders, and he went after, at a later point in that interview, big oil, big pharma, even food stores, grocery stores, razor-thin profit margins for reaping profits while everyday Americans struggle. And he didn't acknowledge government spending as a root cause of inflation.
It is to the eternal shame of the United States Senate that a socialist sits and chairs the Budget Committee. I've said that before, and it makes me very popular.
Let's start with the Fox News Epiphany.
Bing, 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 bing.
Okay, just wanted to use that. So, yes, if you can buy off the voters. Shocking. You can buy off the voters by actually providing for their material needs. That doesn't mean voters don't have to work themselves. That doesn't mean, voters can just get their lawn chair and, drink margaritas by day, watch a little Maury, play a little cornhole, that they don't have to work. But if you actually give economic relief to working people rather than corporations, big pharma, fossil fuckers, Wall Street, Silicon Valley, if you, raise the minimum wage to $25 an hour, $15 an hour is the conservative position at this point. And it wouldn't even take effect right away. If $15 an hour passed today, it wouldn't take effect fully for 5 years. It would stagger every year a little more. If you, cut the military budget, I'd say in half. If you, instead of this complicated unemployment system that we have, actually have some type of basic income in this country, a UBI, not Andrew Yang's version of a UBI, but what many other countries have. If you actually had, basic common sense policies like paid sick leave, robust maternity leave. Germany, other countries, you have a year off paid. Yes, you could buy off the voters. And I'd rather politicians try to buy off the voters than the politicians be bought off by the United Corporations of America. Wouldn't that be nice? Jesus. And boy, if Biden would have canceled all of student loan debt, not this mealy-mouthed $10,000, $20,000 if you were on Pell Grants, which Republicans are already suing to try and stop. I don't even think it would be close in the midterms. You would have a lot, record numbers of young people voting. Because midterm elections, it always drops off among young people voting. Presidential election, they come out in higher numbers. Midterms, it drops off. You would have record numbers of young people coming out if he canceled all the student loan debt. By the way, not just young people, plenty of middle-aged person. Plenty of middle-aged people. So it's just incredible. It's just incredible that Fox News, and it's not just Fox News, by the way. You've seen, honestly, some corporate Democrats talk this way. Amy Klobuchar talked this way on the campaign trail. Oh, you just want to give free stuff to people. Everybody wants free stuff. No, people want the same things that corporations in this country get as a right of corporate citizenship. People want the same things that the donors get. That's what socialism means in this country, because we do have socialism in this country for rich people. I wish Bernie would have used that way more during the campaign, corporate socialism. And he should have called Biden a socialist too. And all of the Democratic establishment is socialist, because they're socialists too. They love giving tax incentives, tax abatements to corporations that line their pockets and then lay off workers. So just magical. And by the way, this is from Fox News. A poll came out, a Fox News poll, nonetheless. A Fox News poll found that a majority of Americans want the government to lend me a hand. This is a Fox News poll. A majority of Americans want the government to lend me a hand, up nearly 10 points in a year and up 19 points among Republicans. Look at this. 52% lend me a hand, 43% leave me alone. Yeah. Well, when you live in an economic Gilded Age, when you live in an economic Hunger Games, yeah, people want you to lend them a hand. It's not complicated. People are treading water. I've seen it. All this bullshit from Biden and the Democrats. Oh, historic economic recovery. When Colin and I went on our road trip, our reporting road trip about 2 months ago, I mean, you could find out very quickly that we're living in a Gilded Age. People are really hurting, and they were hurting, by the way, before inflation. There's been a 30-year inflation in this country. It's called the bank robbery of the United Corporations of America. It's called the chart that shows all the wealth going up to the top 1%, and at the bottom, your wages stagnated. And productivity, too. Thank you for that handy chart, Colin. Look at that just from January of 2021 to May. Look at prices going up, wages slightly going up, real wages going down. It's insane. And by the way, when whoever that was that said, oh, he's going after grocery stores, thin profit margins. Colin, let's show, this is from fizz.org. Food giants reap enormous profits during time of crisis. This Fox News pundit. Oh, Bernie's going after the grocery stores who are just barely breaking even. Oh, yeah? A recent report by Oxfam International has found that 62 new food billionaires were created during the pandemic. The report, realized ahead of this year's World Economic Forum in Davos, Switzerland, highlights the record profits made by industry titans. Food and agribusiness billionaires reportedly raised their collective wealth by 42% in the past 2 years. 42%! All while global food prices soared by 33.6% in 2021 and are expected to rise by another 23% in 2022. Oh, those grocery stores are just barely making it. Let's look at Kroger. Kroger specifically. Kroger boasts $566 million net income after marking up consumer prices. New earnings data released by Kroger reveal that the company had $566 million in net income in its fourth quarter after hiking prices on consumers. Kroger's chairman and CEO said the company enjoyed record performance in 2021 and 2020. Meanwhile, the grocery chain spent a staggering $2.2 billion on shareholder handouts last year after it previously admitted it was passing along higher costs to the consumer. Yeah, quite the passing along. Kroger is among several food industry companies using the pandemic as cover to increase their wealth and line their shareholders' pockets. Oh, but Fox News loves that. Fox News absolutely loves that. And if you remember, we covered it a couple months ago. I think it was one out of 10 or 2 out of 10 of Kroger workers were homeless in California. But somehow you have Republicans believing and independents believing Republicans will do better on the economy. Why do they think that? Is it because Republicans have shown them anything on the economy other than tax cuts for the wealthy, deregulation? No, it's because when you are in your current situation and you're struggling, if you're having to make tough choices between food or medicine for your kids, the electricity bill versus this bill, you're having to pick up extra hours at another job because the main job isn't paying enough to cover everything. Whatever the case may be, you're looking at who's in power now. And you're looking at, yeah, they gave me a $1,400 check a year and a half ago, and that was out the door right away. The bipartisan infrastructure deal, that doesn't affect my life. The Inflation Reduction Act, I mean, maybe a little bit. You want to know what would have really, really helped the Democratic Party in this midterm election? What could have tipped the balance in favor of the Democrats? If Biden would have actually went to war with Joe Manchin and Kyrsten Sinema to permanently extend the child tax credit, which actually, I mean, it's not my top preferred policy, but the child tax credit, I met people on the road that actually was making a huge difference in their lives and taking some of the rocks and boulders over their shoulder off. If Biden actually would have shown presidential leadership and used the bully pulpit to say, these two they're taking food out of poor children's mouths. These two are the reason that poverty is about to spike again. They don't have a coherent answer why we can't provide a permanent child tax credit extension. But the Democrats wouldn't do that. Why? Because I don't really think their donors want that kind of stuff. Yep. Biden goes to war on behalf of the oligarchs. It's not complicated. If they would have pushed for these things, if Biden would have totally disregarded the parliamentarian, said, thanks, parliamentarian, we're going to put the $15 minimum wage in the COVID Act bill, you'd be having a completely different conversation right now. And by the way, I don't think a $15 minimum wage is enough. But on the economy, it would have dramatically helped people. And independent voters, particularly, would have seen, okay, we would stick with Democrats because they're actually giving us material change. But Democrats basically went back to the Obama years of neoliberalism and the Clinton years of neoliberalism. And I don't even want to hear about the Inflation Reduction Act and historic climate provisions. Yeah, give me a break. All right, moving on. Before we move on to take a few calls and download the call-in app, because we're going to take your calls on the call-in app. I want to do one more story before the call-in. We'll move the Flint thing to tomorrow. Today is the final day of the union election in Albany, New York. Well, technically Skodak, New York. As we've been covering, I went up there last week to cover a rally. Thank you to the couple people who signed up as Status Coup members on Friday. I hope for the almost 300 people watching today, if you're not a Status Coup member, you will support our on-the-ground reporting. As far as I know, we're the only ones still on the ground covering union organizing, worker strikes, water poisoning. We're still covering Flint, and a whole lot of other stories we cover in the trenches, on the ground, outside of the studio. It costs money. So please support us. StatusCoup.com, StatusCoup.com/join. It makes a huge difference. You can become a member for as low as $5 to $10 a month. And we'll be doing our monthly members call maybe later this week. We'll do the monthly members call through Zoom. So I want to play parts of my interview with Christian Smalls. He was up there. Other interviews I did with workers from the Albany warehouse, they're up on the channel too, so you could go back to our previous videos and watch that. The final part of the election is today. I got a tip from a worker this morning, if you could show my tweet, Colin, that literally Amazon has safety officials or safety managers, which is kind of an oxymoron at Amazon. Did I not put up the tweet? Whatever. That Amazon has, there we go. Source at Amazon ALB1 near Albany tells me Amazon has safety managers standing guard outside the warehouse property to block media from entering on the final day of the union election voting. Quote, They said they were stationed there to prevent any media from entering. Isn't that interesting? Why would Amazon not want the media on the property to cover the union election? Interesting. Just like Amazon last week, as we covered, and we got exclusive audio of Amazon telling workers that if they were to serve as legal observers, telling pro-union workers, if they were to serve as union legal observers for the election, they would have to take unpaid time off, UPT, or vacation time, which workers do not want to do because they have a very limited amount of unpaid time off. And if they go in the negative, they could be fired. Colin, let's show my tweet thread from last week on this very issue for people that didn't see it. But Amazon was holding its union election. HR is falsely telling pro-union workers serving as legal observers they must use their limited unpaid time off, hours of vacation time, while Amazon's observers still get paid. Let's show the text message if we can. My husband is disabled. So this was from a worker. So I was just told that I wouldn't be paid and I would have to use unpaid time off for the time to serve as a legal observer. That would bring me under 5 UPT hours, which I then would lose my ambassador status. She's referring to a learning ambassador role at Amazon, which is basically training new workers. You get paid a little more to train them. I can't help tomorrow. My husband is disabled. I need my job. Sorry. Hope you understand. So as part of this union election, Amazon was straight up telling workers the wrong information, that you cannot serve as a legal observer. If you serve as a legal observer, you would have to do it unpaid time off or use vacation time, which was deterring workers from serving as legal observers. Why would Amazon want to deter people from serving as union observers? I don't know. Do you trust Amazon if there's not enough eyes on behalf of the union or desired union? Do you trust them to do the right thing? I sure don't. Do you trust them not to try any shenanigans without legal observers there? I don't. Colin, let's play part of the audio if people missed it last week. This was audio Status Coup obtained, actual reporting of the lead union organizer fighting on the phone with HR because HR was illegally telling people that they had to take unpaid time off or vacation time.
Told her that as an observer that she would have to use UPT or vacation, and that's absolutely not true.
That was the directive I got.
Who gave you that information? Yes. Who gave you that information?
That was given to me by Just this morning.
Okay, so that is absolutely not true, and the fact that you guys are not giving our observers the proper information is extremely concerning. Okay. So we need to clarify this so that we can in turn provide them with the right information. And is there any reason that you guys are not educated on the law and what provisions the observers have?
I will find out. I asked the question and I relayed the information. So I will go back and re-clarify.
Okay.
And I'll let you know.
Okay, how long will that take?
I'm going to do it right now.
Perfect.
10 minutes later, Jude returned with the following information.
Hey Jude, I have a question. How come you guys aren't telling everybody that when the voting booth is open, they have the full 4 hours?
What's that?
When the voting booth is open, they have a full 4 hours. How come they don't know that?
They should. They know they can leave at any time.
Every associate in this building knows that they have the full 4 hours?
They know they could go out and vote at any time.
No, do they know that they have the full 4 hours?
Let's talk about one issue
okay.
at a time.
All right, because you guys aren't really giving... Go ahead.
The issue that you were asking me about, they re-verified it, and they said that is actually...
It is absolutely not the law.
I'm not going to argue.
So wait, you're telling me that your vote... Let me get this straight, Jude, because I know the law, okay? Our observers have the right to take the full 4 hours, right? You don't have to pay them,
I'm not agreeing
but they do not have to.
That was told to me.
What was told to you?
The information that was told to me is that if someone is volunteering to observe for the ALU, they are doing that on their own time.
No, they're not, Jude. They get the full 4 hours.
I cannot clarify anything farther than what I have been told.
Who told you that?
I was just told by the ER people.
Who?
The different people that are...
Have them come and tell me.
you get the point. Amazon is trying to illegally prevent workers from serving as legal observers. Workers are entitled to serve as legal observers. Frankly, they should be getting paid. Amazon is paying workers who serve as legal observers on behalf of Amazon. So anti-union workers, Amazon's keeping them on the clock paid. Pro-union workers, you have to use unpaid time off or vacation time. No, you don't. They could serve as legal observers and not have to take unpaid time off, not have to take vacation hours. They just wouldn't be paid for that time, which some of them are willing to do. I interviewed Christian Smalls outside of this Albany warehouse. Again, today is the final day of voting at this warehouse. It's in Schodack, New York, which is right outside of Albany. If they win, they would be the second unionized Amazon in America. The vote counting begins tomorrow. I really don't have a sense if they're going to win or not. The union busting at this warehouse has been significant. And from people I spoke with, they feel that a lot of workers have been spooked, and Amazon has put the fear of God in them to vote yes. Amazon has a shit ton of consultants that they have brought in from out of state, going around this building, basically hovering over workers, I was told. In some cases, workers feel like they are being harassed by these union busting consultants, and a lot of workers feel that if they vote yes, that Amazon will know they voted against Amazon and their jobs will be on the line. This is what I was told from several workers, that there is a basically an air of fear that has been instituted by Amazon. Let me play a couple parts from my interview with Christian Smalls, get an update on where things stand with the Staten Island Amazon that won the union election, but Amazon has still not recognized them. And then his thoughts on this Albany election. Before we get to Albany, give me an update. It's not enough that you won, but Amazon seems to still be in denial about it. What's the latest in terms of getting recognition from Amazon and hopefully forcing them to the table to collectively bargain?
Yeah, right now we're waiting on that final verdict to be certified. Once we get that certification, we're going to file a motion right away to have them come bargain with us, hopefully within the next couple of weeks.
And that certification comes from the NLRB?
Yep, absolutely.
And tell me about this warehouse. Obviously, Amazon labor union's been working with the organizers here, other warehouses trying to organize. What have you heard from some of the workers here? What kind of things have they been dealing with here? And what do you feel in terms of their chances to win a union?
Well, yeah, here they have the same issues that we have in any facility. But they get paid a lot less here, compared to JFK. This building gets paid like $2 to $3 less. They got a raise just like everybody else, and the raise was just a breadcrumb. A lot of the issues that really happen here, this is the #1 building in the network for Amazon for injuries. That means in the entire network, this building gets hurt the most. So a lot of these workers here are on leave, medical leave. We had to help out several workers, whether it was starting a GoFundMe or paying for a medical bill. We have done that in this campaign. And we continue to talk to these workers. We're going to try to advocate for, fighting for better benefits, especially when it comes to medical accommodations. Other than that, today was a great rally, a great momentum. I had to sit down with some anti-union workers at first, and I was able to convince them to vote for the union. So that's what it's about, having that time and having several conversations and just sharing the right information with them.
When you talk to them, are the things they're saying or their concerns mostly coming from kind of the union busting propaganda they've been fed here?
Yeah, a lot of it's just misinformation. A lot of it is really lies, lies that Amazon is telling them about, myself, about the union, about union dues, the same normal spiel that they try with any other campaign. But they're really trying to make sure that these workers don't have the opportunity to even talk to us. So obviously being here all day, I've been here several times, having several conversations, phone banking, answering questions as much as possible, bringing unions from the community here today. That was all important, and I think it's starting to resonate now.
And lastly, tell me about interest you've been you've received from other warehouses around the country. How many are we talking, and how soon do you think they might be able to get the green light to hold a union election?
Yeah, we man, it's been hundreds. I think we up to about 800 workers that have reached out to us since April from different parts of the country. The latest one that we're going to announce, which I can announce now, is that we're going to file for an election with ONT8 in California, outside of San Bernardino, Moreno Valley, Inland Empire. They're going to file, whether today or tomorrow, it's going to be out there in the public. They're going to file for their election. Shout out to Nanette, the lead organizer. I've been back and forth supporting that campaign, and I'm going to continue to go back out there and get them ready for their election as well.
And which one is that?
ONT8, Moreno Valley, Inland Empire, California.
So that was Christian Smalls. Listen, that much interest, the fact that he has that much interest, if they win this election, and again, I wish I could give you a better sense. I just don't know. The warehouse has about 700 to 800 workers. Like I said, I've been told that Amazon has put the fear of God in these workers. A lot of workers feel that if they vote yes, Amazon's going to find out they voted yes, and there might be repercussions. Obviously, this kind of intimidation, union busting, is why we need something like the PRO Act, for example, but we are not getting the PRO Act because Democrats won't fight for it, and Biden is a fake union guy. But if they win, I mean, it would be a complete tidal wave. I think that would be 2 Amazon warehouses in 6 months voting yes. And I think we already saw in California, in San Bernardino Valley, they just filed for a union election. There are Amazons in Kentucky and North Carolina also organizing right now to get a union election. So this could be major. And, obviously we're deflated right now as a progressive movement. A lot of people feel leaderless. A lot of people are angry, feel, whatever it is. People are disappointed by the squad. Some disappointed by Bernie. Some, feel like it's too corrupt. There are things happening right now, and it is in the workers' movement, in the union drives, in the worker strikes, in the tenants' unions. And we're trying to cover as much of it as we can. We need your help. It costs money to cover these things on the ground. We went up to Albany to cover just that rally. It was 3 hours back and forth, pay the cameraman, gas, equipment costs. If we're going to do more on the ground reporting, we need your funding. We need your help. There might be a railroad strike in November. We need to be able to travel for that and cover those costs. So please, if it's within your means, consider signing up as a Status Coup member. Let me give a shout out because we got 3 new members on Friday. Welcome Dennis, Marin, and Emily. 3 new members signed up during our Friday show. I hope more of you will sign up today. I cannot do the call in today. I'll probably do it tomorrow because I have to run for something. I will real quick. I want to sneak in this story because this is absolutely infuriating. Absolutely infuriating. Rick Snyder, former governor of Michigan, who is trying to get his charges tossed officially. His misdemeanor charges that the Attorney General of Michigan filed against him, even though my reporting has indicated he literally presided over the cover-up and was engaged in the cover-up of the Flint water crisis. He helped cover up the fact that the deadly Legionnaires outbreak was spreading in Flint. He knew about it for a year and a half before he notified the public, meaning he knew residents were drinking toxic water and he did nothing. Well, he thinks the people of Flint should thank him. Headline: Snyder says he did more for Flint than others have done for Benton Harbor. Benton Harbor, Michigan, also has a water crisis. Former Governor Rick Snyder says his administration did more for Flint than others have done for Benton Harbor and other communities faced with water contamination issues since he left office. Appearing on Fox 2 Detroit on Saturday, Snyder promoted his work with Sensei, a cybersecurity company he founded, but also spoke about the Flint water crisis and pending criminal charges against him that he's asking a Genesee County judge to dismiss. Attorneys for the former governor asked last week that the 2 misdemeanor counts of willful neglect of duty against him be dismissed because a $1 person grand jury used by prosecutors in the case lacked the authority to issue them. Earlier this month, more severe water crisis charges against 7 other former state government officials, including members of Snyder's cabinet, were dismissed by Genesee Circuit Judge Elizabeth Kelly. The decision followed a Michigan Supreme Court decision that said a single grand juror has the authority to investigate, subpoena, witness, and issue arrest warrants, but not to indict, as happened in the Flint cases. Quote, well, the Supreme Court actually said its piece. They came out with a very strong opinion saying how inappropriate the prosecutors behaved and their charges don't hold. Now I have to go through the whole process of getting to the local judge to get them dismissed, but they've already been dismissed for most everybody else, Snyder said. Wow. Wow. As my reporting has shown, let's just show the headlines, Colin. This is from The Intercept we broke last year, how a flurry of suspicious phone calls set investigators on Rick Snyder's trail. I worked on this for 6 months. How a flurry of suspicious calls set investigators on Rick Snyder's trail. We got the phone logs of Snyder, his chief of staff, and the head of the health department 6 months after the water switch, feverishly on the phone 22 times over 2 days. Just so happened to be at the same time, his environmental department and health department were trading communications about the deadly Legionnaires outbreak. Just so happened to be 2 weeks before he was up for re-election in 2014. That, not my opinion, prosecutors said this was evidence that Snyder knew about the Legionnaires outbreak a year and a half earlier than he publicly notified the residents of Flint. Lives could have been saved if he would have notified the residents of Flint then, 6 months after the water switch. If he would have switched Flint back to Detroit's water system, which I'm writing about right now as we speak. I'm working on a book about Flint, tentatively titled Watergate, all caps on the water, inside the biggest government cover-up of the 21st century. Yeah, Snyder would have got criticism, but imagine if he would have sounded the alarm 6 months after the water switch and reversed on the mistake they made by letting Flint go to the Flint River. Mistake they made. If he would have switched 6 months later, when lives could have been saved, residents would have still been affected health-wise, but would have stopped receiving the toxic water October 2016, a year earlier. So that would have prevented Flint residents from drinking that water for over a year. Some might have said, you know what? He fucked up, but at least he stepped in when he knew he fucked up. He literally allowed people to drink toxic water, knowing it, for a year and a half before it went public. And he's saying, I've done more for the people of Flint than others have done for other communities. Let me tell you what else he did for the people of Flint. In 2018, we went, Jen and I at the time, and we knocked on nearly 400 doors in Flint. And we found out that Snyder, when he was still governor, was literally, his environmental department was cooking the data. They were manipulating the water testing by flushing residents' lines right before taking the water samples, running people's water lines. I'm talking for, in some cases, 3 to 5 minutes, and then putting the water sample bottle under it. Voila, we're getting low lead levels. And he used that data to declare Flint's water restored. And he shut down the free water stations at the time after declaring Flint's water restored using cooked up data. But he did more for Flint. And by the way, he is going to get off. They are going to dismiss the charges against him because this Democratic Attorney General in Michigan, Dana Nessel, fired the whole team that was actually building a case against Snyder for involuntary manslaughter. She cleaned house, fired the special prosecutor, fired the chief investigator, they were building a case against Rick Snyder for involuntary manslaughter. I reported that. I broke that. And 2 other Michigan reporters confirmed my reporting, that they had independently confirmed that the original prosecution team that Dana Nessel dismissed were building a case involuntary manslaughter against a governor. Now he's going to get off and the charges are going to be dismissed because this attorney general and the new prosecutor she put in when she cleaned house and fired the original prosecutors badly messed up the case. And the Supreme Court of Michigan ruled that the way they prosecuted the case using a one-man grand jury, which, not to get too complicated, a one-man grand jury is basically a judge. They used a judge as a one-man grand jury to indict them, was unconstitutional. So the charges were dismissed against most of the defendants, and Snyder is asking for his charges to be dismissed on the same grounds, and they are going to be dismissed. And I'd be very surprised if charges are refiled against Rick Snyder. It's now 8 years later. And for most crimes, the statute of limitations has passed. Not involuntary manslaughter, but other crimes, the statute of limitations has passed. This is the post-truth society I speak of. You got Trump, his son, threatening political opponents with violence, threatening Jews. You have Republican candidates saying, "I'll accept the results of the elections if I win. I'll accept the results of the election if I win." You have Herschel Walker playing pretend cop. He's flashing his badge in interviews with NBC this morning, literally continuing to double down that he somehow has police authority and somehow trained with police or something. Zero police authority. But repeat the lie, repeat the lie, repeat the lie. I mean, basically our mainstream journalists very tepidly challenge these people. I mean, hell, the debate between Raphael Warnock and Herschel Walker, it was a local Fox station moderating. They asked Herschel Walker about the abortions he paid for. Herschel Walker said, "That's a lie." They didn't even follow up. They didn't even challenge him. And now Rick Snyder is saying, "I did more for Flint." Yes, you did. You covered up their poisoning. You cooked the data to pretend that the water was fine. Oh, by the way, Colin, if we could show that other headline, the Flint water cover-up. I broke for The Intercept, also last year, that top officials in Snyder's administration, they literally deleted their phones right before the launch of the criminal investigation. They deleted their phones and all their text messages from 2014 and most of 2015. They deleted their phones and deleted their text messages from the period Flint used the Flint River, including Snyder's press secretary. Yeah, I'm sure they did that without him knowing. We broke in 2020 that Snyder's top advisor, his henchman, Richard Baird, was going around Flint offering sick residents payoffs in exchange for them to pipe down, because some of them were getting media attention yelling at town halls. This is stuff, not even written up in The Sopranos. You couldn't even make this up that the mafia was doing this kind of stuff. And he's saying, "I did more for Flint." Is the mainstream media going to cover it at all? No. Are they going to go challenge him on this? No. Are Michigan reporters going to go challenge him? No. Are Michigan reporters going to challenge the attorney general, the current attorney general, Dana Nessel, a Democrat? Are they going to challenge her on why did you fire the original team? Why, by the way, did you drop financial charges against several state officials who were responsible for financial fraud that led to the Flint water crisis in the first place? Why'd you do that? No. Most of the corporate media exists to cover up corruption, to cover up environmental genocide. That's why Status Coup exists, to cover what the corporate media covers up. So we'll stay on Flint, and we'll keep covering it, because clearly corporate media doesn't give a shit anymore. Let me read some super chats. Dave L, $5. After the beer hall putsch, Hitler was laughed off as an irrelevant nobody. Things can still go very sideways. Very true. Annette, $9.99. Thank you, Annette. Charlie, $5. Thank you so much. Daniel, $9.99. If you look into companies like Mondelez and other category captains, what Bernie says is true. The EU currently has an antitrust investigation into Mondelez for essentially price fixing. Correct. And by the way, there's a lot of other companies that are price fixing right now, including the fossil fuel industry. Chris Garrett, $5. Minimum wage should have a built-in cost of living adjustment. COLA by law. Anything less is upward transfer of wealth and abuse. I agree. And by the way, if we had that, if you were adjusting for inflation, let's just go to the, 1970s, you would have a minimum wage hovering around $23 to $25 right now if we adjusted for inflation since the 1970s. Right now, the federal minimum wage is $7.25. $7.25, which, by the way, the Democratic Senator Raphael Warnock, during the debate, would not say whether he supports the federal minimum wage. I don't know if you saw that. He dodged that question. This is the Democrat would not say in the Georgia debate whether he supports a federal minimum wage. Tony Dallas, $5. Chris Smalls is the real deal. Can't support them enough. Every Amazon story that comes out makes me sick to order from the site, even for the necessities. I try not to, unless I desperately need something right away and don't have another choice. I try not to use Amazon. Thank you for the super chats. Really appreciate it. Thank you so much for all the likes and all that stuff. Please consider signing up as a Status Coup member. Again, statuscoup.com/join. If it's within your budget, you can become a member for as low as $5 a month. That equates to 16 cents a day. If you like the on-the-ground reporting that we do, and frankly, no other independent outlets are doing, please support us. I can't ask you enough. I plead. We really need your support. Every member counts. Statuscoup.com/join. Become a member for as low as $5 to $10 a month. See you back here tomorrow at 5 o'clock Eastern time.